folks. It's Joe Biden, and you're listening to Here's the Deal. And on the show with me today is Andrew Yang. Today, I'm eager to dive into an issue that's he's been passionate about, but I've also been passionate about for a long, long time, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Andrew, welcome to the show, pal. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Joe. I'm excited to be on Here's the Deal. I loved the name of the podcast as soon as I saw it. I was like, yes, go Team Joe.
You know, we've seen some incredible technological advances over the past 10 years or so, and in a lot of ways made our lives easier, but we face a real challenge. How can we ensure that the benefits of these advances are shared equally and accessed by everyone across society? And I'd like to hear how you kind of think through this question. But first I want to hear, before you were a presidential candidate, you were an entrepreneur. Was it then you began to think this through in a more detailed way than you had before?
Yeah, I started working across the country as the head of Venture for America, a nonprofit I founded. And it was really after spending time in Michigan, Ohio, Louisiana, Missouri, other places that had been hit by the automation of manufacturing jobs, did I realize that what had happened to those manufacturing jobs is now shifting to other parts of the economy, retail, transportation, even food prep and food delivery, administrative tasks. And administrative tasks are the most common jobs in the economy.
You know, I sort of come at politics from where I come from the middle class, working class families, you know, people who bust their neck. And you've heard me say it before. My dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your place in the community. It's about your sense of your dignity. It's just about who you are. And there used to be a basic bargain, I thought, in the country for the last 100 years or so, that if you contribute to the success and profitability of an enterprise in which you worked, you got to share in the profitability, and you got to share in the benefits. Now, if it failed, you got to share in the downside too, but at least you were in on the upside. That just all started to change. And the argument was that it's just globalization was the only reason it was changing. But my sense was that it changed across the board in the sense that the whole corporate culture changed, not just technological change. The culture changed as well as to what constitutes an obligation on the part of a corporation. Period. It used to be, it's like Milton Friedman was alive and running the show, that the only person who could benefit, the only job creators were the stockholders and the management. But they didn't talk about all those workers and all those folks. Now, a lot of them being displaced by industrialization. I get that, by technological change. But talk to me about that, about has advanced technology divorced from productivity, from labor, meaning we're making more than ever, but with fewer workers? Is that the only problem, or does it go beyond that?
It's a very, very deep problem, and it has been building for decades, Joe. And Americans can see it right now, where you're seeing 30 million unemployed Americans, record high levels of layoffs. And then what happens to those companies' stock prices? They go up, because the fact is investors aren't investing in job growth. They're investing in bottom line profitability of the firms. And the tough truth is that a lot of these firms can operate more efficiently and more profitably with fewer people. I'm privy to the thinking of many major company CEOs, and they are telling people confidentially that they're not going to hire back a lot of the people that they furloughed or let go. This economy is not going to snap back into place like a rubber band, in part because that relationship that you described, that if businesses do well, then workers will benefit, that bargain has broken down, and now it barely exists. And the tough thing is that it doesn't exist in the numbers. And we all know that these stock prices are driven more by the numbers than anything else. Our system is doing what it's designed to do, Joe. It's just not designed to be good for families, communities, workers. It's designed to maximize capital returns and capital efficiency for companies that are consolidating and taking over more and more of the economy. We need to fundamentally rewrite the incentives of our economic system to help the mom and pop, both individuals and businesses that are struggling to get by. And that's like, again, the tough reality is that our system's doing what it's designed to do, but it's not helping more and more Americans in their day-to-day lives.
What do you think the most important thing Andrew, that we can start to do to begin to change this curve a little bit and get longer term view of things?
Well, I think we need to fundamentally redesign the way our economy works. And I think we need to make middle class Americans somehow participants or shareholders in the productivity gains that are happening in other parts of the economy. Now, that's a tall order, but that's the kind of move we need to make, Joe, because what's good for the Amazons of the world is not working for the family in Main Street America today. And how do you connect those two things? Right now, Amazon's literally paying zero in taxes. You know, like $1 trillion company, one of the only businesses that's hiring during this crisis, paying less in taxes than anyone listening to this. So that there are really big changes we need to make. We need to equip more people with the skills needed to succeed in today's economy. And there are massive gaps that private industry will not fill, that the government needs to get in there and say, look, we can see that there are hundreds of thousands of unfilled jobs. And right now, you and I know there are hundreds of thousands of people we need to trace contacts with coronavirus patients, to help install 5G equipment around the country. I mean, there are literally hundreds of thousands of these unfilled jobs that we need to help connect people with. So it's one of the biggest challenges, particularly now that we have 30 million unemployed people, Joe. Pretty much anything we can do that's going to connect people with jobs, we need to do. We need to think as big as possible. Everything needs to be on the table because the joblessness problem is going to be massive. We need to rebuild the country. We need like a Marshall Plan scale initiative to rebuild the country in the wake of this crisis.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that, you're a really bright guy. You know that if you only had $1 to spend on education, you could spend it before kids got to first grade or after. You'd spend it before. No, I'm serious. I know people don't think.
I have kids, man. I mean, it's like my kids are only 4 and 7, so like they're in the house getting educated every day. So I'm living it in real time.
The point is that if we were able to send a kid to school, not daycare, school, 3 years old, 4 years old, and 5 years old, put them in school. All the studies at the great universities over the last 6 to 8 years show that increases by over 50% their chances of going all the way through high school without a hitch, being able to be fully engaged. And if we made, community colleges free, we had state universities, all those things, it seems to me, and I'm going to ask you a question because now you're talking to Joe Biden, the historian and lawyer, to the scientist, okay? So I may be out of my field here. But it seems to me that as I look back, one of the reasons why the overwhelming jump we got on the rest of the world in terms of economic growth was we were the first major nation in the world, to require 12 years of education free, regardless of your background. And that was around the turn of the 20th century. And that created this gigantic boom. Everybody else was caught up in the meantime.
Yep.
A lot of caught up, but we're still sitting there as if 12 years of education enough to compete in the 21st century?
It's such a great comparison to make, Joe, because we implemented universal high school around 1911 in response to the Industrial Revolution that most people think of, where you had all these people getting brought off the farms, being put into factories, and then you said, well, we need to overhaul our schools. And it's time for another overhaul right now, over a century later, for a new industrial revolution. 12 years is not enough. We need to start earlier, just like you said. So much happens even before that child shows up to kindergarten or grade 1. We need to have childcare available, pre-K, pre-K, like anything that helps the kids get prepared to learn, really, because many kids, unfortunately, are showing up to schools not in position to learn, and then we're asking our teachers to become miracle workers. And they know that they only control 35% of the kids' outcomes. 65% is happening outside of school, at home, before they showed up to school on day one, the summers, what's happening, in their home environments. If your home environment's excessively stressful, you can't learn. And then you get to community college, vocational school. We need to invest massive levels in vocational education around the country.
I agree.
Yeah, you should team up with Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs after you're president, Joe. Just have like this campaign where you're saying these are awesome jobs because we need to have more people see the vocations and trades as a secure path forward and not as a place to go if, quote unquote, like college, isn't right for you.
The vast majority, look, one of the things that we've cut in education over the years, and it's been, if you excuse the reference, a Republican mantra here that, we're wasting money in education, is that we've cut vocational training.
Yeah.
We don't have many programs
That's really the big gap.
Where a kid learns that, God, I like working with my hand. I can make a living working with my hands.
Joe, only 6% of American high school students are in vocational, technical, or apprenticeship programs. In Germany, that's over 30%. Yeah. So think about that gulf. Like if we ratchet that up, then we can start to fill some of these needs in our economy and prepare many more Americans for the workforce. But right now, I mean, what you and I are talking about right now is stuff that we should be doing or should have started doing years ago. But we're going to have to think way, way bigger post-coronavirus crisis, because the things you and I are talking about would take some time and the needs are going to be immediate.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to. I don't want to run out of time here because, look, in my view, this is not about getting us back to where we were before the coronavirus crisis. That's not good enough. We got to get not back to where we were. We got to get beyond where we were. Now, I think I'm a little more optimistic about being able to do that than you. I may be wrong. No, I'm not. No, look, and I want to make it clear to you. I think it's really, really, really going to be hard. Really difficult. I think the tools exist, but talk to me about if you were, the emperor right now, you're running the show. What are the things that you would do planning now for the end of the medical crisis portion, where people are actually able to get back to work? What are the things you'd be looking at? What are the big ideas? You're one of the best big idea people I know.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it. I think that, to me, the issue most Americans are facing right now is that we have bureaucracies and systems that are not designed to actually get economic resources into people's hands because they weren't designed for it. Like you have state unemployment offices that are getting overwhelmed with demand. You have banks processing small business applications that it's totally new to them and they're not sure what to do. So if I were in charge of everything and could just do whatever I wanted, I would say to the American people, look, we've got it for the duration of the crisis. That is, if you're a landlord, don't bill your tenant, just bill us. If you're a small business and you have payroll and you're going to fire everyone, don't worry about it. We'll get it. We're just essentially going to put the economy in suspended animation, or like a temporary Rip Van Winkle period where you can just rest easy. Your business is not going to go under. You're not going to get behind on your rent, and you can adhere to public health guidelines. And then we will get through this together. The problem right now, Joe, is that we have these systems set up that don't actually have the ability to get money into everyone's hands and account for it properly. And so you have the best connected firms in our society getting plenty of money, and then the food truck operator or the nail salon just being left out in the cold.
Well, look, I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the things that I got upset about and has written about and spoken about a lot in the last couple months is this so-called stimulus to give everybody breathing room so they can still live and they can eat and they can so on. First of all, the president has significantly more authority as president under the Defense Production Act and other means to be able to get a lot of stuff done. And one of the things that bothers me the most is I suggested that we actually come up with a Defense Production Act that would be able to dictate to major banks who they had to lend to. Remember, the only reason a lot of them are in place is they got bailed out by the American taxpayers last time around, okay? And so they're not taking the risk. It's just a lot easier if I come along and I say there's $500 billion for major corporations, and I'm not against corporations, but $500 billion for them.
It's like that, you hope it'll get to the small businesses, but
well, come on.
They're serving the biggest companies on the block.
And look at the people that have accepted tens of millions of dollars, and the only rationale for the law, but we took down the inspector general, he got rid of an inspector general, Trump, was to keep people on the payroll. That was the whole idea.
That was the point, yeah.
That was the point. So One of the things that I think we have to do is insist that in this next round they're doing, that the money go to small businesses because the banks are taking no chance. They, in fact, are being underwritten for it. Secondly, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we should be talking to small businesses. And I mean, now, when we say small business, people out there go, well, 5,000 employees. Well, nobody thinks that's a small business. When they think of small business, they're thinking of somebody with 50 or fewer employees, or maybe even fewer than that, 15 employees. But the point is that I think we should be doing what a spark of an idea you gave me a while ago. I don't know whether it's actually yours or not, which was that we should, if you have 20 employees and you only need 10, keep all 20, pay each of them full salary, and the government will make up the difference in the salaries that are lost. So half your salary base will be paid directly by the government to keep your employees on full time and keep your business up and running. Not a loan, just a flat make up the difference. Make up the difference till we get through this process.
Yes, anything to keep jobs on the table so that people aren't sent home not knowing what the heck the next steps are. Because that's happening, as you know, Joe, to millions, tens of millions of Americans right now, and it's brutal. I mean, I'm seeing the same things you are in terms of the misery, desperation, anxiety, uncertainty. I mean, the damage that's being wrought on our country right now has so many levels. I mean, it's the economic harm, yes, but it's like the mental health problems. Yeah, the surges in social ills, really. All the things that you would want the least for our country are unfortunately surging right now.
And I don't think they have to be. And I think we can get through this period, but the things we have to change, and I think, I know you agree, we need some revolutionary institutional changes in how we do things.
Yes, amen. It's painful because every passing day, more and more Americans are hitting desperate circumstances and dire straits, and they're feeling this inability to be more agile every single day.
Well, we need an environment in the wake of this revolution. Everybody has a chance to be part of the mix, and so it's not so self-evident exactly how to do that. So we're faced with the question, how do we guarantee there's a net benefit for humanity as we come out of this thing? Because in the past, everything's different. I get it. I'm not saying the past is necessarily prologue. But in the past, we've come through these crises and we've come out stronger than we went in. And we've been able to deal with some of the institutional problems. For example, one of the things you got so tired of hearing me talk about, I think, was the soul of America. We had to restore the soul of America, and I meant that. But we're seeing the soul of America now in all these, quote, before non-essential people. All these grocery clerks, all these firefighters, police officers, nurses, first responders, all these people literally risking their lives without the PPP that they need, without all the protection, losing their lives, many of them. And they're showing up every single day to try to get things done. I don't think they paid any attention to the plight that people go through being before a crisis, but in this coronavirus crisis in meatpacking plants. I don't think they even thought about the fact that, the folks who are out there, the law enforcement officer there's an accident, somebody's bleeding, they go in anyway and they pull them out having no idea whether they're infected or not. I don't think they've thought about it, but I think they've thought about it now.
Yes.
And I think they realize that they're not getting paid a living wage. Everybody should make at least $15 an hour, that everybody in this society should be in a position to be able to get the education where they can do some of the institutional things we have to do, dealing with infrastructure and the kind of change that have to take place just for us to be competitive, even if we didn't change anything about the allocation of resources. I mean, there's so much to do. Talk to me a little bit about that or anything else you want to talk about, because I know we're running out of time.
Well, Joe, I see your victory as a necessary step for us to be able to do so many of the things you're talking about, where to rebuild this country, call it America 2.0, call it the Great Rebuild, call it the New Marshall Plan, though we probably need a better name than the New Marshall Plan, but we need to go bigger than we've ever gone. We're faced with a once-in-a-century need around the country to rebuild from the roots up, And you're going to lead that effort, Joe. I'm privileged to support you in it.
We're going to lead that effort. We, you and me are going to lead that effort.
But you call it the soul of America. I agree that this is it. Like, we need to win this race in November. You need to become president, and then we need to start doing the hard work of trying to restitch the fabric of our families, of our communities, of our country. It's a crisis that, you're right, has taken rip the blinders off. And the question is whether we can come together and build a new vision of a country that tens of millions, hundreds of millions of Americans will be able to see themselves in and get excited about. And I'm here for you to do just that. So thank you, Joe, for your patriotism and leadership. Let's do it.
Today, we're going to take one question from one of our listeners.
This question is from a member of the Yang Gang. His name is Kevin.
I was wondering, Andrew and Mr. Vice President, who is a leader that each of you tries to model yourselves after, and why?
I'll go first. My political hero and role model is Teddy Roosevelt, because he was bipartisan, completely fearless for the people. And I also feel kinship because his great-granddaughter is my goddaughter. So I feel like I'm sort of spiritually a Roosevelt through that relationship.
I wouldn't be very far from that. I think that Teddy Roosevelt had all what is needed today, including his unyielding optimism. But I also think his cousin, Franklin, did a pretty good job in a moment of real crisis, stepping up, and he had a great line. I'm paraphrasing it. That's Franklin Roosevelt. He said, "The American people can take bad news. You just got to give it to them straight, and they'll get through it." And I think we need to have leaders who are prepared to just tell people the honest-to-God truth, give them the answers, the best answers there are out there, that is, and be as new to science and technology, that we know what we're doing, what we're talking about. Don't try to sugarcoat it. The American people are tough. And so they're some of the people that I would look to. And obviously, I'm not any one of them, but they're the people I look to. And Andrew, I want to say thank you, pal, for taking the time to be with us. And thank you for everybody for tuning in. But stay safe, stay healthy. And Andrew, you got any closing comments you'd like to make?
Thank you for having me, Joe. It's a privilege to consider you a friend and champion for our entire, not just party, but our country. We need you to win. And, love this conversation. Really feel very grateful to be here.
Well, thank you. And as you and I talked about on all those stage appearances, that this is a lot bigger than the Democratic Party. This is about the character of the nation. And I still have faith in the American people. If we level with them and offer them a clear alternative and a path, I think they'll take it. With your help, I'm confident they will. Thanks a million, Andrew. Best to your family, okay?
Thanks, you too, Joe. Be safe. See you soon.
Thank you.
Put the money in our hands. Put the money in our hands. Put the money in our hands. Put the money in our hands.
Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.